Hey, thank you, Liz. Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're so happy to see all of you, and we're glad you're here with us tonight. This is our UDW Live, and you can catch us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and so many other places you can find us. But if you're on here with us right now, we're happy to have you. My name is Carol Comito. I'm the president of the United Democratic Women. We've been established now for about 7 months, and we had our first fundraiser a couple of weeks ago. We're supporting Val Demings, who's running in Florida against Marco Rubio. She's currently a congresswoman and she's running for the Senate. So it was an exciting event. We had a lot of people join us both in person and on Zoom, and I hope you were one of them. It was very successful. For tonight, we were supposed to have the president of NOW, Christian Nunez, and we're sorry to hear she got sick. So we are going to have Quiana Dickenson, and in a minute, I'm going to announce Quiana and tell you a little bit about her. We really hope that you'll continue to join us for other events that we have and invite other people to join our organization. We are a national organization. We are a PAC. And what we do is we raise money to support Democratic women running for Congress. And we also are raising money to support issues that affect women. For example, Roe versus Wade and voting rights and the ERA. And there's a few others, but they're some of our main focuses right now. So if you were joining us over the next few months, it's $15 membership because we're already halfway through the year. And in November, on November 12th, we'll have our annual meeting. Our dues will start again. Our dues are $25. We'll be meeting in Washington, D.C. at the Whittemore House, and you'll hear about that many, many times. In the meantime, on May 2nd, we have a membership meeting. I hope you can all be there because that's an important meeting. We are going to pass our bylaws at that meeting, and we're going to discuss our future events. So I wanted to give you some information about what we're doing. So now I have the pleasure and the honor to introduce Quiana Dickenson, who's going to speak to us tonight. And I've known Quiana for many, many years. I was in Arizona before I was in Washington, D.C., and we got to work together sometimes, and it's been a pleasure getting to know her. So I want to tell you a little bit about her, and then I'm going to turn it over to her. All right. So Quiana is highly skilled and trained in conflict resolution, mediation, community conflict management, communication, training, and public speaking. Quiana has worked with both for-profit and nonprofit organizations, facilitated seminars for government agencies and officials, and is frequently called to advise in matters of effective communication and community conflict strategies. She's a member of several local and national community service and advocacy organizations, such as Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, NAACP, and the National Organization for Women, and serves as the immediate past chair of the Arizona African American Caucus. Quiana was formerly the regional political director for Arizona List, which recruits, trains, and elects women to office in the state of Arizona. Quiana also served as the political director for the Arizona Democratic Party, whose focus is on community engagement, coalition building, candidate development, and party leadership. Quiana currently serves as the political director for the National Organization for Women, and most importantly, is a mother of 3 beautiful children. So please join me in welcoming Quiana Dickenson.
Hi, Carol, and thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Christian sends her greetings and her sincerest regrets for not being able to be here. As you know, people are now, it's that time of year where seasons are changing and sometimes colds take place, and when that happens. I want to say hello to everyone. I am currently visiting family in the great state of Ohio. Had a wonderful opportunity to spend some time with my grandmother, who is one of my personal sheroes in this world. And it is because of her that I do the work that I do here for now, for the Democratic Party, for the NAACP, and for all organizations. And I'll just share just a little bit about her story because it illuminates why I do this work and why we all do this work. My grandmother was born in 1935 in a little town outside of Mobile, Alabama. She was a sharecropper. She was a teenage mom with two boys who had enough wherewithal and a few pennies and moved with my grandfather to Cleveland, Ohio. There she worked. She had four more children. She raised her children. She worked as a domestic. She ran a business. And she did all this without the help and the support of people in a community who did not believe that women, specifically women of color, specifically Black women, one, would have the right to vote, would have the opportunity for economic advancement, or would be able to even ensure that their children got proper education, proper health care or housing. But some way, she was able to do it. And she was able to make a way for my father and my aunts and uncles in a way that made it even possible for me to be here. So the fact that I can address you all as a woman of color, as a avid voter, as an advocate, as a mother with my own children, you have to understand where we have come, not only as women, but where we have come and the strength from which we come from. And those are the shoulders that I stand upon to be able to do this work. And it is because of her and women like her all over the country, because that her story is not uncommon. It is the story of so many women, past and unfortunately present, that are dealing with so much insecurity right now, even as we have struggled and fought from everything from women's suffrage to reproductive health to voting rights to discrimination, that we find ourselves in a moment where we now have to make sure that we are continuously fighting. My grandmother celebrated her 87th birthday this year. And in her lifetime, she has seen so many tremendous, wonderful things. But yet we are still in a place where things are not that different. There's been some advancements. We can vote now. We can have credit cards now. Women have, for hopefully continuously, reproductive rights, but we have to continue to fight for these things, because I would hate to have to look at my grandmother and so many other women and say that we lost some of the opportunities that they have fought so valiantly for, so courageously for. So this is why I do the work that I do. This is why I'm sure you all do the work that you do, is because there is some woman in your life. There is someone that sparked and inspired you to be the greatness that you are. And not only do we owe it to them, but we owe it to our children, to our nieces, to our mentees, to the people that look up to us, to ensure that the future that we are creating is one that they can be proud of and that they have something to carry into the future. So I'm tremendously grateful to be here with you all tonight and to answer any questions that you might have. It has been an opportunity of a lifetime to work for NOW, which is a tremendous legacy organization who has been fighting for the rights of women for over 40 years and continuously does this work at the ballot box, with our advocacy work, with our lobbying for efforts to make sure that women are protected and they are safe and wherever they choose to reside. So this is an opportunity that I'm truly grateful for, humbled to be with you, and looking forward to a conversation.
Well, thank you, Quiana. And maybe if you could take a few minutes and tell us some of the things that NOW is doing presently. I didn't want to say now again. and and what are some of your top priorities, I guess, right now, especially leading up to the election?
Wonderful question. Well, right now, as you know, we are all watching very carefully as the reproductive rights for women are actively being put on the ballot again in all states. We are carefully watching that and looking at many battleground states, some that you would consider, we continuously have to fight, like in Georgia, like in Arizona, where Carol and I first became acquainted. But there's other states like Michigan where the rights of women are on the ballot, that things are happening within the state houses that are making it even more difficult on the federal level to actually be able to legislate and protect the rights of women. So we are carefully watching those. We are trying to make sure, just as we all are, that we have a strong Senate and that we will be able to maintain the House so that we can make sure that the rights of women stay where they're supposed to be. In addition to that, we are also doing some work to build coalition with other organizations like yourselves to make sure that the work that we're doing is what works for all of us. We know that we can't do this work independently. It has to be a coalition. It has to be a team. It wasn't one group that got us the right to vote. It was all women that did that. And so we are actively working with as many groups as possible to ensure that we are building coalitions, because when we fight together. And when we win together. We are also looking at making sure that we are pushing legislations to ensure the safety of women, including human trafficking, as well as bills that will protect young women and girls and those that are out in the dating community right now who are being, harassed and demeaned just because they choose to use a dating site. We want to make sure that people cannot use Facebook, cannot use social media, cannot use just your average cell phone to intimidate and to harass women, specifically young girls. And that is happening a great deal all over the country. So we are going to continue to fight for those efforts, in addition to making sure that we pay close attention to the housing crisis that we are all experiencing right now. Everyone has realized and seen how difficult it is for people to find housing, for them to maintain housing, and for women who are having to make choices between their health care, their child care, and their housing. It's becoming a difficult choice. And that should not be the case for any growing family, and specifically women and children. They should always have housing security. They should always have income security, and they should always have food security. And we are trying to make sure that we help to elect people and we lobby to ensure that those efforts are always happening.
Thank you. Yeah, just to kind of touch on what you said, especially about trafficking and young women and how they're being affected. Right before I came on this call, I was watching, there's an organization, End Rape on Campus. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Absolutely.
And these young women were phenomenal, speaking about their experiences and talking about how the community treats them, and especially trans women. They talked a lot about trans women.
Absolutely.
And I was on something yesterday about that. Has now tapped into the LGBT community. I don't know if now directs things specifically or more generally.
Well, one of the 6 core principles of NOW is our words to protect the rights of our LGBTQ plus community, including the trans community. We want to make sure that all individuals are safe wherever they choose and however they choose to present themselves. So we do work closely in coalition with other groups to ensure that we are centering the safety and the security of our LGBTQIA sisters and brothers wherever they are. It is one of the 6 core tenets of NOW. Absolutely.
Oh, that's great. How about going into 2022? What do you think NOW is going to focus on? I mean, I know we're all working on voting rights, and I imagine you are too.
Yes. I know this year, because it is a midterm year, one of the directives from our national president is to make sure that we are putting our greatest investment possible in making sure that we hold our Senate, and also to make sure that we keep the lead that we have in the House and extend that lead so that we can make sure that all the bills that we are pushing for and that really lift up the entire community are front and center and can continue to go forward. That is going to be number one, because if that does not happen, we are stopping a lot of the progress that we're having. There's only so much that any presidential candidate or any president can do with basically 18 months, 2 years of time. And we need to make sure that we are giving our president as much time as possible to make sure that we get through the things that we need to get done. A lot has been done under this presidency, but there's still a lot of work for women and for girls and communities of color that we need to protect, and we just need more time to do it. So we are focused, laser focused. I am specifically under the mandate of our president, Christian Nunez, to make sure that we are doing the work in the states to make sure that we have very strong feminist candidates that are there that look to represent women every time they make a vote.
That's great. I think we can definitely work together. We'll have to talk more about that. I think Liz just put on the chat, she has a question. Liz,
Sure.
you want to come on?
Hi, thank you. My question is about messaging, and we've had years of talking about the right to be able to the rights of our body, and as far as reproductive health is the wording we've used. And what I've been reading more lately is that people are talking about we should just say the word abortion, and that we have a right to have an abortion. And what are in your, being in the political world, that you're in, do you have ideas does now have ideas as far as how we can best message that we do have a right to an abortion, and that we have a right to make our own choices with our doctor about our own bodies? And how do we message that now?
I think the terminology that is being used around reproductive health is a good one, because I do want us to be considerate of the fact that not all choices for all do include that, although they should. If it is the choice that anyone would like to make, that is the choice that they have to make, and it should be available to us all. In addition to that, there are some laws in some states where people are trying to limit our ability to even have IUDs or just, healthy birth control option. So I think when we should name them, my personal opinion is we should name all of the options that are on the table, right? Up to and including abortion, up to safe and healthy birth control, including IUDs or including birth control pills. All of those options that are medically safe and available to us should at all times be medically safe and available to us. And I think our ability to name all of them is very important. I do think there is a sense, and I understand your question, as sometimes we can lump them all together and almost seem as if we're minimizing it. My suggestion would be to name them all. Name them all so that people know what pro-choice means, is that you actually have a choice. There are many things on the table. There are many options for a woman, and she should have the ability to exercise what is best for her, her body, and between her and her doctor.
Thank you. It's a good question, Liz. And thank you, Quiana. Yeah, it makes sense. We do. We have to cover everything. Is anyone else that's with us want to ask a question? There's some people on Zoom, and then hopefully a lot of people on live, and then of course they can go back and watch it as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's probably, like you said, with the Voting Rights Act and the things that aren't happening, which is just amazing to me. That is number one, in the sense that if we don't hold the Congress, then, what else can we do? Because that's
right. First
and foremost. Women's reproductive health obviously is right up there on top of it. I know that we are a PAC, and of course, we're a Democratic Party, and I believe now functions as nonpartisan, if that's the correct term. Is that true?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
It would be great, because what's something that you said in the beginning, and I firmly believe, and it's one of the reasons we started this organization, is that there's obviously power and strength in numbers. So the more organizations that we can collaborate with, the better and more effective we can be. So is that something that you think, is there a way for us to collaborate? Because we have very similar ideas and thoughts about how we want to go forward. Uh-oh, I think you froze, or we froze, or somebody. Oh, there you are. Okay, you're
there.
back.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think finding the opportunities and spaces for collaboration is very, very important. And there's always a way to collaborate. We are nonpartisan. However, we like to work with groups and try to find ways to do the most work and reach the most people possible. So that means finding spaces where we can work together. And this election cycle, a lot of that work is going to be the old-fashioned campaigning. A lot of that work is going to be knocking on doors, getting out to vote, and that is not a partisan issue. Voting, making sure that everyone has access to the voting booth, access to voting if they have early voting in their state, that they have the ability to do that, and that they can do so safely and without intimidation or fear, is something that we can all agree on, no matter our partisan beliefs. And so making sure that those spaces where we can work together, activating our memberships around candidates that speak to both of our core tenets and goals is extremely important, and is always a number one place where we can collaborate. Absolutely.
Okay, great. We'll definitely be talking. Does now, I know that the League of Women Voters over the years has done a lot of data and tracking and so forth. Does now do any of that? Because we're sort of in a different boat, so we don't have all that access right now.
What type of data and tracking?
Like, for example, when we're talking about candidates in the states, you know, and who are supporting women, especially, you know, truly supporting women, not just, you know, talking about it. How people are voting right now in regards to some things. I mean, anything like that, any kind of data. Do you do
so
that?
I know we have not commissioned independent data, but we utilize a lot of the same. Rutgers University has a women's center that tracks a lot of data for women, as well as there's a couple other women's organizations that do some tracking on reproductive health issues, more issue-specific work and polling. With regards to candidates and who is actually doing the work, National now endorses and does the work of federal candidates. So we typically work with congressional, Senate, and presidential candidates. Within the states, though, is where our state and local chapters do the work of endorsing on the ground. And truthfully, we depend on them deeply because they know their states. You know, we coming from Arizona, we know Arizona is a very different state, to say the least. And it is one where you kind of got to be there to understand it, right? So we know that we deeply depend and lean on the expertise and the wisdom of those individuals that are in the state to tell us. I do know that polling is important, but I always trust the people on the ground first. They know, and I believe in trusting their instincts.
Okay, good answer, and it's true. I don't know what the rest of the states are like, but I know what Arizona's like. So yeah, we had to do a lot of work to make things happen. We had 2 points. We had Sandy had something in the chat, and then Kathy will come to you next. Let me just see. Sandy's got, how does it look for the Democratic Party in general? Also, there's a question of paper ballots. It says here in France, the paper ballot is used. It's the most accurate. The ballots can be recounted and fraud is minimized. You have thoughts on that, on both of those?
What is the first one? Was what is the state of the Democratic Party? How does it look
for the Democratic Party in general? I think, you know, trying to get the pulse of where the party's at. I imagine Sandy means for 2022.
Right. What you know, this is my thoughts and my take as someone who formerly worked for the Arizona Democratic Party and had an opportunity to work with some really great people at the DNC that I would count as friends. I think the country is tired. I think we have been fighting for a very long time. And for those of us who would do this work, we've been fighting, you know, endlessly. But with Trump and his particular brand of ugly, we have really had to dig deep into this work. And so Democrats as a whole, the individual Democrat on the ground, we're tired, we're fatigued. There's a lot going on. So I think the challenge for the Democratic Party is how to reinvigorate ourselves, as well as to reinvigorate our base, our ground, the people, so that they feel like we can rally two more good times. And I say that because 24 comes right after 22. It's just, we don't really get much time anymore. So whatever excitement we're able to muster and rally, we're going to have to be able to continue that through to 24, because it's just that important. And I know you hear everyone in politics say continuously that this is the most important year. I'm saying the next two elections are the most important two elections that we're going to experience. So we cannot take our foot off the gas. And I know that we're tired. Believe me, I've been fighting with you all as well, and we're all a little tired. But I think that is going to be the challenge for the Democratic Party and all of us, however we vote, because we have experienced a lot over these last couple of years. And we're going to really have to rally together to make sure that we get over the finish line and that we're safe, because we're not out of the woods just yet. So we can't go back to politics as usual. We're going to have to keep our energy and our enthusiasm up. And the second question was, remind me?
About paper ballots, basically.
You know, I'm not sure about the technology that's there, and I know every state is different. I know that in the state of Arizona, you know, against popular belief or whatever fake news, is we had early voting and it worked well.
Yeah,
So
it's true.
I think, and we used paper ballots. It's worked for years. It wasn't even a new phenomenon. It was something that's been happening for years. And I know from what I hear from colleagues in other states that they are having, you know, exceptionally good turnout with using paper ballots in electronic machines. And let me just be clear, like you fill it out and then you stick it in a machine and it, you know, it registers that vote electronically. I think that system has been working well. And I think we should continue to use what's working. I know that over the pandemic, people in states that were not as familiar with the system that Arizona and some other states have used for years kind of had, you know, some challenges with getting up to speed with that way, but I think they have worked them out and they have been able to move forward with that. And it's really proving to be effective. And you know that's true, because if it wasn't the case, then those that wanted to keep us from voting wouldn't be trying so hard to keep us from using those same systems that they actually once used and put in place themselves. So that's how you know.
Good point, Quiana.
Are working well, and they work, and we should keep those systems in place.
Oh, thank you. We're going to take one more question before we wrap it up. Kathy, go ahead.
Yes, I'm going to kind of switch the focus here. When you talked about social media and young women, this reaches down into very elementary schools, sometimes middle school and high school, and it can result in very serious, you know, suicide and different things. Absolutely. Do you have, how does your outreach go to, and how do you work with that? Do you work with school systems? Do you work with individuals? How do you present that as to help young women with that?
What we have been doing thus far that I can speak to is doing a lot of work within the collegiate system. We want to reach out to the young women that are college age and really empower them to do this work. They are a tremendous group of people. I have the benefit of working with some college women who are just phenomenal and exceptional advocates. So the future is definitely bright with them, but they also need to make sure that they have the space and the safety that's necessary to kind of take this baton and move it forward. So we are definitely working to advocate for our collegiate women. I don't believe we have on a national level done too much outreach inside K through 12 areas and spaces, but we are always available, and I'm always open to talk to, you know, high school groups as necessary. When I was with the Arizona Democratic Party, we regularly reached out and worked with high schools to have conversations about voting, about the history of, you know, the party or the history of, you know, our systems here, and just really answer their questions. Young people have tremendously thoughtful questions that I wish some grown-ups had, to be honest. And we're able to engage in those conversations and really talk through it, as well as there are some that are listening to those that don't believe that voting is important, that, you know, the rights of women are important. And it really gives them an opportunity to challenge those thoughts that they hear and talk with an actual person in the world, not just hear all the things in social media. So the point that I would make here is one way that I would suggest reaching out is if anyone who has the opportunity to speak to young people, collegiate age or K through 12, and give them the space to ask the questions and answer them as honestly as you possibly, to do the research themselves and then follow up with them, right? Cheer them on. Be excited about the fact that they asked the question, because we know so many grownups that just won't ask the question and will just depend on false information. So that would be my suggestion.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Quiana.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you so much for being with us tonight and jumping in at the last minute. And, you know, I always enjoy listening to you. I've had the privilege of doing that for years and talking with you as well. I hope to see you in DC soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let me know when you're coming out. You got to come sometime, right?
I will be there. I will be there.
Okay.
I'm not afraid. I love DC. It'll be exciting.
Okay, maybe we'll get you here November 12th when we have our annual event.
Awesome.
See if that works
Let
out
me know.
for you. Yeah.
Let me know.
Well, we certainly appreciate your wisdom and your knowledge and all the things that you've done and bringing you to this point. So thank you once again. Give Christian our best. We hope she's okay, and maybe we'll catch up to her in the future.
Absolutely. Keep us in mind. It has been a pleasure. I appreciate you all. I thank you so much for allowing me to be here, and we look forward to collaborating in the future.
Okay, thank you. Have a good time with your family.
I will. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so for everyone who's joined us or for everyone who will see this at some point, we thank you. We hope that you will continue to be a member with us, invite others to be a member. As I said earlier, if you were on here, actually membership is right now $15 till we have our annual meeting in November, and then it will be $25 for the year. We have an event coming up on May 2nd. We'll have a speaker and we'll have our membership meeting. It's really important. So if you can be there, we would love to have you. We're going to be approving our bylaws. We're going to be talking about some future events. And then on November 12th, which is a Saturday, we're going to have our annual meeting. So save that date. And if you need anything, if you want to share any information, if you have any thoughts or suggestions, we would love to hear from you. You can go to our website, UnitedDemocraticWomen.com. We have an email address there. Please reach out to us, reach out to me personally. I'm fine with that. And we hope we'll see you again at our next event, which we're doing this once a month besides our membership meeting. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here.